Okay, so the whole honeymoon period or real progress, we kind of did talk about that. I guess
to put a cap on it in a sense.
Yeah, if we're going to put a cap on that, this is like a percentage of potential future timelines. The percentage of them that are positive is significantly larger than it was at any point in the game's recent history. Basically. Yeah. It really is theirs to up now, because there are no humongous looming fuck-ups in the horizon. Every other time, we've had a very clear list of obvious fuck-ups that are going to happen, and they did. Yeah. This time around, I mean, balance could be messy.
Yeah,
I mean like a profound fuck-up, like a torpedo that hits the ammunition cache of the ship and blows it up, killing everyone.
So if you think about potential torpedoes, I think balance issues would have to be catastrophic. I don't think it will be catastrophic. Turbo torpedoes would come in, I think, one form would be talents, where people realize, oh shit, we don't actually have any talent freedom because now we're running sims on raid gear and we actually are. The talent build I want to play is 20% behind because this talent's way too overtuned. Fuck. Okay. That would likely torpedo the experience for a lot of players. One of the other torpedoes is the Night Elf story.
Yep,
that is a torpedo that is, as far as I'm concerned, actually on its way and is about to hit and cause serious damage. But it depends on the handling. I have a little tiny bit of faith based on how some of the Green Dragon area side quests are, that they at least vaguely understand what to do. But it's still, how will it be received? How will it happen? Because they still have limited budget and time with their big stuff. Another torpedo is raid balance. No, sorry, not raid balance. Raid completeness and bugs. Because I think a lot of the boss designs look really good, but there's seriously a problem of this doesn't work. Because you go, okay, alchemy doesn't work. That's pretty major. And they're just like,
whoops,
we'll fix it. Sorry about that. But it's like, hey, the raid doesn't work. Raid doesn't work that well, or loot drop's been really buggy for some reason because we've added group loot back, and obviously it should work fine, but alchemy was tested and worked fine and then didn't work fine suddenly. So it's like, what changes that up that causes major problems?
I think it's went from why have we set the sat nav to sail this ship off I was going to say sail the ship off a cliff, which maybe doesn't make too much sense. I suppose now the Earth is flat, whatever, right? So it was like, we're obviously fucked. Mm-hmm. That was where it was. Now we're more towards thinking about Black Swan events. I mean, that's a pretty lofty thing to say, but I mean, when we say Black Swan event, it's like the raid's fucked beyond belief. Like, that's the Black Swan event, or, they have to disable more professions, or sorry, we had to delete evokers.
Yeah, so
there's no obvious time bomb.
That said,
Night Elves, though.
I do think it's very important that, because it's not all about just really big bad PR events, it's also about people playing the game and feeling satisfied. Because if there's a sharp contrast between the start of the expansion and then once the season started, then it'll feel Shadowlandsy again. And obviously it won't literally feel that way because there aren't those same problems, but the problem could very much be, I was having fun. Now I'm not having fun, which turns the narrative in the player's head to, where's all my content ran away to?
Right.
And then people go, oh shit, I don't have content. Wait, how do I progress my renown without content? Oh, I only do the same weeklies? Or, then I don't really that much to do, and Mythic Plus doesn't feel rewarding because it's harder than it used to be. Remember that. It's harder than it used to be at the same number, at least theoretically. And the raid could also maybe be broken a little bit, and maybe crafters don't quite have the resources to do stuff. Maybe the first wave of crafting gear is way too expensive because of how resources are, and some of that with resources being global should keep the prices down. I've noticed it's not bad, but at the same time, if you need a rare resource and you're like, oh, my deterministic gear, I can't wait to have my deterministic gear with my Spark Invention. How fucking much are you asking for that? Holy sweet Jesus, I'll never afford that. Oh, has Blizzard made this crafting system so people will buy WoW tokens to get their deterministic gear? And then if it does happen, will Blizzard be enough to go, fuck it, get the drop rates up to get that down. Will they be willing to do that, make that change of finally tune the economy so it doesn't feel like you went, why fuck's this game pay to win all of a sudden? And those are like the very small problems that could snowball. And that's all about the execution of, do the numbers work in this video game?
Yeah.
Across both like major regions, do the numbers work as intended? Because that's the stuff you can't really test. That's the stuff that goes, here's the live data, and they're probably all sitting looking going, is this gonna work? Fuck.
For an example of that, right? I actually think Destiny is something we can talk about just a little bit. So Destiny 1, obviously, big fuck at the start. Taken King comes out. Destiny 1's live team ends up getting that game in a really good position, to the point where by the end of the cycle of Destiny 1, its players are, generally speaking, really happy with the overarching design, and they're having a good time. Now, it kind of transpired that Destiny essentially had a live team and a, like, working on the next big thing team. And it seemed that those teams didn't really talk to each other that much, because Destiny 2 took a lot of the very sensible things of Destiny 1 and it threw them out the window. And I bring that up because a similar thing could happen in reverse. A situation where Blizzard's like, oh, okay, great. Dragonflight is good and stable. We are going to big invest time into 11.0 and, patches. This smaller amount of people will do those. And maybe the patches end up, I mean, as an example, right? If we have a patch that's just like, hey, it's Corthia Mortis. We were going like, oh no. It felt big and expansive, now it feels small and bad. So what I would essentially say is just, it's theirs to lose. If their patch content can continue to sort of like celebrate the wins of what we've got right now, that'll be really good. I think it's the sort of thing, when the going's good, get going, right? It's like the going's good. That means you need to, while still obviously keeping 11.0 in mind, you need to keep this going. It's not a situation of, okay, bam, job done. We've rehabilitated Rao's image, and now we can rest on our laurels. Absolutely not. This is, this is the start of the journey. We saw one example. Connor and our news team ran it was a quick little bit of analysis on the Twitch numbers, and obviously Twitch is a different website to what it was when Shadowlands came out. But I do think there's some interesting things. Did you know that Shadowlands had no Twitch drops?
Yep.
It did not have incentivized bullshit to make its numbers go bigger. Yet, Shadowlands had more viewers on launch than Dragonflight did.
And obviously go despite
15% more.
Despite them giving away ostensibly a $3,000 amount.
And for the number of channels streaming, under half the channels streamed. Now, that could be a case of people who were not a part of the support a streamer thing would look at the category and think, there's literally no point in me streaming World of Warcraft right now.
Yeah.
So maybe that could be it. But just the point is, if this was the most clear, easy win and we were all done and people were hyped again and, suddenly the story of WoW and Blizzard is happy and positive, you probably would have seen larger Twitch numbers, especially given the incentivization. And what that ultimately means is that this is the end of one era, the start of a new era, but we're not starting from a high baseline.
No.
What they're able to do here is show to the people that are still willing to give them the chance that they can potentially have the goods. So now what's happening is we're giving our honest reactions to that. That's going to make more people be interested in the game. Hopefully. They then need to follow that up with content that continues to make all of these players happy. They need to rebuild that snowball. Games like MMORPGs are, they live and die off the network effect. The network effect is something that is very much seen in winner-takes-all tech startups, right? Like your Facebooks, your Twitters. The more people use Twitter, the more value Twitter has. The more people use Facebook, the more value that Facebook has to its users. With an MMORPG, the larger the MMORPG is, generally speaking, more value. You'll have a better time in the game if you get more of your friends to play the game. This is the network effect that drives growth in a lot of these things. That is what you could also think of as that snowball. But the thing is, the snowball's not going to run, it's not just going to roll down a hill based on gravity. because, you know, this in this case, it's not gravity, it's effort that will basically Blizzard need to use. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill, but for some reason it's a snowball rolling up a hill, and Blizzard are pushing it with content. They've made a really good start, and they need to keep pushing.
Yeah, so the way I have...
God, we're insane for our analogies.
Yeah, no, the way I've framed this internally is a little bit more of a normal analogy, where, you know, Blizzard were in a pretty good spot, and then almost in a Sisyphean manner, the boulders roll back down the hill. They've been set back to step one. They've been set way far back in their progress to a long time ago in terms of how many people like World of Warcraft, care about it, and play it. And they now have a very long journey to get back to where they want to be. And they probably want to be better than they ever were, which is a fucking big ask. But they have a long way to go. But you walk 1,000 miles the same way you walk to the shop. You put one foot in front of the other. And they've made one pretty big step. And it's a major step, and it is a really solid step. It's a more solid step than I ever expected them to make with how this content feels in so many ways. But I have no idea how much energy it required for them to move that foot. Yeah. Will they be able to take the next step the same way? Or will it be a smaller step? Or will it be a step backwards? Or will they fall over? Those are the questions where it's
are their shins on fire and they can't move anymore because they've just done this big heavy lift?
That's exactly it. Will they be able to take the next step and the next step and the next step? Will they be able to actually walk the 1,000-mile journey here? Or will they stumble and go? That took, we had to crunch our staff into oblivion. We've got 750 something fucking people on the payroll at Boston and California wages. This is not going to work. Something has to be different. Will Activision turn around and go, you promised us money, Mr. Height. Where's our fucking money? And then something go wrong. That's the fear. But they did take a really good first step, which means I trust the individuals in the decision making, which I did not do 6 months ago or a year ago. I did not do that at all.
Yeah.
But now I trust the creative processes there. I trust they can actually make a good ass game. It's just whether they are physically capable of continuing to do that at the speed that the modern live service world actually asks for. Will we get an extra quarter or an extra half of the Dragon Isles in another zone by April? Or will we get a patch that's here's something maybe?
I guess what I think about there is the broader organizational context of Activision Blizzard, which is one of, oh dear, Destiny 2 is eating up resources at high noon and some of our other support studios. Fuck, we better get rid of Destiny because we need to redouble those in Call of Duty. Then a sudden case of, fuck, there are not enough developers on this in this company to make all of the Call of Duty that we want to make. You then look at Overwatch 1 and it's a big, colossal fuck up. You look at how D3 loses ground to PoE, right? You look at all of these things. Now what do we see? We look at Overwatch 2. They have clearly made an investment in their, in their content pipeline, right? Season 2 is just about to come out. It's got a new event, a new PvE event. It has a new hero. It has a new map. That's quite a lot of stuff. It still is, fucked up the wazoo in terms of its rewards for what Overwatch players would expect. But clearly there is an expectation of content there. Every time they have talked about Diablo 4, they have talked about the marathon pace of seasonal content. We look at the stuff with World of Warcraft, and as you found out when you looked through the credits, 50% larger team. Big. You look at the other Activision studios, larger teams. You look at World of Warcraft, they could not get organic growth to be fast enough, which meant they had to rely on inorganic growth through mergers and acquisitions with Proletariat. Right? Now, part of that's because we're in a very tight wage market in the games industry, especially in California, a situation where you have a lot of very well-funded startups. You also have a lot of extremely well-funded incumbents. And, I think I've made this little suggestion a lot of times. Hey, if you want to get higher in the games industry, well, number one, it's actually pretty damn possible, it seems, these days. Number two, technical artists are fucking unicorns and we all want them. Yep. Hey, if you're a technical artist in Northern Ireland, say hello. But they literally could not grow their team fast enough because of competition in the wage market, so they acquired another company.
Hello, Riot.
Which, definitely hello Riot when it comes to who's competing with, wages. From what I've heard as well, they are making significantly more competitive offers than they used to. So essentially, all of that seems to indicate that they know what they need to do, and the whole thing of like, you've shipped the thing, but you've damaged yourself in the process, and now you can't run the marathon. That, in a way, is also Shadowlands to a T. Whenever a game gets... So, if a game gets delayed a year or 2 years, like if it's 2 years, that happens all the time probably, and you never hear about it. If a game gets delayed 3 months, that is fucking hell. If a game gets delayed 6 months, it's probably hell. If a game gets delayed 1 year... If it's also a rescope and, like an Anthem-like situation of the game, or maybe how they tried to make Overwatch 2, because, from Overwatch 2, that was, from what we understand, kind of like turned around in a year when they realized, fuck, Overwatch will be dead and buried if we don't do something. You'll be fucked. So... Like, the thing with Shadowlands, that was a 1 month delay to deliver an expansion that still had a load of issues. And then the amount of time that it took for fucking Korthia, of all things, to come out. Like, that was a case of, they burned all their fuel, and, like a salmon swimming up the river when it's not eating anymore, and, like, it's turned all horrible and red because it's, like, using its own, like, fat mass and muscle mass for energy to make it up the river so that it can have a shag and then die. Like, that's the analogy for what's kind of referred to in the industry as the Death March.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So... Have they death marched for this expansion? That's a lot of the question.
Yeah, that's more or less what I meant when I was saying, like, how much energy did they use to take this first step? Will there be a second step, or will their legs explode?
Or will there be dead salmon?
Yeah.
The episode of Futurama where, like, for a bit they're all salmons. I think they all die at the end.
I don't remember that at all.
That was a good episode of Futurama.
It's we can only hope. But it's a good honeymoon period, and in terms of a valuable enough product, in terms of go buy the game in a month of subs, it's fucking worth it. Like,
there's another thing that I think I'd like to talk about as well when it comes to this, and I think a better word for it is what I'd almost call the developability of content, right?
Ah, yes.
So I think an easy example we can use is like a little bit of the current game right now, and even our stuff for Pale Beyond. So with Pale Beyond, we have we know our systems very clearly. We, in terms of like our resource balancing, our game mechanics, everything's obviously completely locked in and final. We know our full production, just like the way that everything works with all of the team. There are no unknown unknowns anymore. So that just means if we want to make a whole bunch of content, we can sit down, scope it, build it, done. And there will be different gradations of content there that will be harder to do, right? Like, if something was completely aside from the story, well, it's like, we've made a game with these tools. We know exactly what we're doing. We can make this shit easily. There are no unknowns. There's nothing weird and confusing. It's fine. We can just do it. Well, with a game like Shadowlands, they actually run into a bunch of issues there because the big new things are so systemically driven that they're not production friendly. That would essentially be my opinion. Because if you look at the bits of Shadowlands that were good, that were a bit better, they were actually some of the more production friendly things, where they'd basically say, all right, listen, crew, in Korthia, we just need a bunch of rare encounters and events.
Go make stuff.
Could you go make stuff? And what you'd find is the little flares of individual staff's creativity. That's where you'd find those things. Mm-hmm. But you have the unknowns. You have these shaky foundations you're not quite sure about. And that was present everywhere throughout Shadowlands. And I think throughout a lot of Battle for Azeroth as well, because of the systemic underpinnings of those expansions. I then think if I take a look at this expansion, well, the Renown system is, I'd say, broadly speaking, very well designed and also very production friendly.
Yes,
because
for sure.
the types of content that we've really enjoyed are, I think, what you'd call production-friendly content.
Shit to do, like. So
Yes, it's shit to do. It's like, oh, we have a big shack full of quest designers. Hello, could you make some quests? Because our players, they want to fill up their renown bars, and we think you guys could tell some really nice stories, and our players could fill up their renown bars, and everyone's going to be happy enough. Yeah. Versus a situation of, so we're designing this really complex, multi-stage, multi-tiered, crazy complex, mad, crazy new build-around feature for this patch or this expansion. Until we get this good, who the fuck knows what it's going to look like?
Yeah.
That's so much harder to develop for.
Yeah, and that's what's frustrating me about World of Warcraft, because it's had such a solid answered core combat system for so long that they keep throwing things on top and wrecking it, and you're like, fuck, it's so good. Why ruin all this work by overcomplicating it?
And that's why we all just scream like, keep it simple and make more game. More is more. Content is king.
Yeah, and that's what they did in Legion. Where they're like, yeah, obviously they had so much resources and reworked loads of combat and stuff. But it's like, yeah, why did Legion work? Because everyone had fucking class halls. And what they do, they went and did the class halls, and they went and did Suramar. They went and did the Wither training. And I was like, well, these systems feel like shit, but I'm having fun. Like, well, now you don't have the shit systems, so just make people have more fun. Just take the renown bars, double them in length, add more quests, add more content, keep it going. And then people will be like, I'm playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And then I go home. I go home, I log into World of Warcraft, I play World of Warcraft, I feel happy, I log out of World of Warcraft, I go to bed, rinse and repeat. Obviously, you'll want to weave in some things like eating, going outside and working and stuff, but, beyond that, like...
Let's see, what are my daily steps?
Yeah,
3,700. That's awful. And somehow an improvement on a lot of days this week. Thanks, World of Warcraft. Yeah.